I'm your host, Sarah Baus, and welcome to Attainable Podcast. Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Attainable Podcast. Today, I'm super excited about the guest that I have on. I was on her podcast, now she's coming on mine, and we've become fast internet friends. Guys, give a big, warm welcome to Breanne Burke.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm so happy to be here.
You're such a fun, light person. I will say you give the energy of Florida in that you are so bright and so sunny and so fun. And you just absolutely even on the internet, I was of course doing some stalking on your profile and I was like, oh my gosh, it's just like a magnet. You just radiate that energy even on your photos and your videos.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's such a nice compliment. Obviously, for those of you listening, I'm actually Canadian. I'm from Toronto. However, I'm living up the Floridian lifestyle as of right now.
It fits you. It fits you so well.
Thank you.
Can you give a bit of a brief breakdown on who you are and what you do? Because you got a lot of different facets and it's very interesting and a lot of things that I think people don't know what they are. So I want to go into that on what exactly is your title? What do you help people with? And what are your methods?
Yeah, 100%. So I am ultimately a mindset and confidence coach, particularly for millennial women. And that kind of tracks back to my self-development journey. Now, I'll give you a little bit of context, a little bit of history to give you some insight onto how I got to where I am today. So dating back several years, kind of dating myself, I'm 31. And I went and studied abroad in university in Sweden. So when I went to do this, I come from a small town. I'm from Niagara Falls. Obviously everybody knows Niagara Falls. It's a border city.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite small. You remove the tourists and it's a pretty small town. And I am one of very few that kind of left, even left to go to Toronto or traveled. So I always did things that were very against the grain or against the status quo. I always was challenging things. I always wanted to do my own things. So one of the steps to do so is I went and studied abroad in Sweden. And I went over there not knowing a single soul, obviously in the country, let alone the continent. And that kind of challenged me in a way to really start to connect to myself. And I started to journal a ton. Now, journaling is obviously extremely common now. It's kind of a buzzword. Literally everybody does it. Everybody says, if you are doing it, you should keep doing it. You should do it more. And those that don't, it's why don't you journal? But honestly, I was journaling before it was a thing. Before, I remember social media at that time, again, dating myself, Facebook was around, but Instagram was around. But this is before you even cared about getting likes and stuff. And you would post a million posts a day. And it's
it would look like Tumblr. We'd use that as really hard filters. You probably had some sort of picture of your feet in Vans or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much what it was. So I just remember kind of being in my lofty little res room and I just started journaling a ton. And I've always been one that is extremely process driven. That is my style of learning. And so with that, it's really common to talk out loud to yourself. I don't know if you do this, but I talk out loud to myself all the time. When I'm typing something or when I'm studying or when I'm reading something, constantly people will be like, shut up, Brie. And because I'm constantly talking to myself. So then I found journaling and I was just oh my God, I can literally empty everything in my brain onto paper and I don't need to talk to anyone about this. I can just go to town. So that was that kind of kicked things off in a very small way, but it was a massive ripple effect. And from there, I didn't go to much class and I just traveled all around Europe. And then that extended into me traveling South America for about 3 months, came home, finished my last year of university, didn't even attend my graduation and flew across the world. And I went to go live abroad at that point for 9 months, but I stayed away for 2 years. My parents were going to kill me. I kept making the phone call, I think I'm going to stay a bit longer. I think I'm going to stay a bit longer. So that initially started with me backpacking for 5 months in Southeast Asia. I lived in Dubai for a bit. And then I lived in Australia for a year, went to California for a bit. And then I finally returned home. So without going too much into it, you can imagine there's a lot of learnings and things that happen within that time.
I got some questions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. So a lot came from that. It's a very against the norm, particularly where I'm from. I believe like Europeans and different parts of even the States, like people are very encouraged to go and travel and whatnot, but it's so common to go right from school to start your career. And I just didn't do that. But by the time I came home, I was like my mid 20s. I was honestly, I think 26, 25, 26. And I felt hella disconnected from everyone. I had my close knit girlfriends who are still like my number one cheerleaders, and they're like my ride or die. We've been friends since we were kids. But I came home and everybody was getting married and everyone was building houses, and I had $0 to my name. I was in so much debt because I put myself through university and then I worked pretty much all while being abroad. And I felt really lost, like really, really lost, which kickstarted me to be like, okay, I need to uproot my life and like do something. Might I add, at this time when I was experiencing these feelings, all I wanted to do was like get up and leave, like get up and travel again, because that's where you connect with other people, because there's other people doing that exact same thing. But I knew I needed to like create some roots. I needed to figure out what I wanted to do. I'm in this massive amount of debt. Might I add, within being home for about 2 months, I ended a 7-year relationship. So that was really challenging. And
You were in a relationship while you were abroad?
yeah, he would like bounce in and out of he was predominantly with me a lot of the travels, but like example, when I was studying in Europe and stuff, he wasn't. We did a lot of long distance. We had a really lovely relationship. Like he was 5-ish years older than me. So at that time I was also pretty impressionable and like, but he was able to teach also, he's a teacher. So he was able to work abroad. So with coming home, but he's also still all I knew for 7 years. And I literally had an epiphany. I literally woke up one day and was like, I don't want this anymore. I don't know what I want to do. I know all my friends are getting married, but I'm going to literally end this relationship. And it was really awful because it was quite shocking. Like none of my friends knew, my family didn't know. He was, of course, in shock. Like, Brie, are you having like a mid 20 something crisis? Like, what are you talking about? Like, we were going to get married in like the next year. And I'm like, nope, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, but no. And so, yeah. So that like really started like to really dive into my self-development journey because I was so lost, and that was like mid 20s. So let's pause there. Do you have any questions up until that point?
You know what? And I think this is so important as well, because this, obviously your journey is very unique, but I think the mentality, the struggles, I think that's not unique. And I think a lot of people in their 20s like feel this way, looking at other people in their life and feeling disconnected and very unsure, and like the future feels very just, you're not sure what's going on. I think that is something that a lot of people can connect to. So first of all, I want to go logistics, because I'm a big nosy gal and I like to know how everything works. And so I'm sure the listeners are wondering, let's go to traveling abroad. First of all, did you have a plan that, oh, I'm going to go abroad and like frolic? Was that like that? Because you leave university, which of course you were going university abroad anyway. So I think that mindset's, you're already there. There is something a little bit different, but there's usually a lot of pressure about getting a job, starting a career. Did you not feel that, or did you feel that drove you to start traveling? Where was your head when you started?
Yes. Okay. So when I went to study abroad in Sweden, obviously that's still very structured, right? You're in the confines of like a university or education phase of your life. I got the taste of the travel bug. So I was exposed to being like, whoa, I can do a lot on my own. And I was very sheltered to a degree, like in a good way, but like I would be naive to say that I wasn't. I'm extremely close with my family. Like my parents are together. I have 2 older brothers. My family like runs a family business, and I was just so fortunate. I was always so close with my mom, and like I knew nothing when I went to go study abroad. Like I didn't have the skills of like doing my laundry and cooking, and it all came out. And then I would call her upset, being like, all of my food tastes so bad. And she would feel bad, being like, oh my gosh, I didn't teach you. Like just very sheltered. So it went to the other extreme where I learned a ton. I became extremely resilient. I just learned a lot about myself and connecting to other people, what I like, what I don't like, things like that. So then I came home, finished school. Yes, to answer your question, when I went to go like travel abroad, ultimately post university, that was heavily influenced by my partner at the time because he traveled a lot. He had traveled a lot. He liked to travel. He had a teaching job lined up in Dubai, and he's like, come live in Dubai with me. It was an American school in Dubai. So that was a pretty cushy lifestyle. But I also worked. It wasn't like we were traveling and I had my older boyfriend like paying for things. Like I worked some pretty dodgy jobs. Like I
What
did a
can
lot.
you name some of them?
Like this is so fun. Okay, let's date some back. I one point was working at this really glamorous gym in Melbourne, and I absolutely loved it. But I actually got let go, aka fired, for the first and only time in my life, which was extremely shocking. I was like so shocked. I've never, you know what, it was a good hit to
Yeah.
my ego, and it was a humbling experience. And I was just so taken back. So anyways, just I, again, being resilient as fuck, I literally got fired from that job, panicked, and was like, I need to make money. We have rent. We had an apartment in Melbourne, and I literally got a job in 2 days at a local burger joint. So like I worked from like this really glamorous high end like Pilates studio to like this burger joint. But everyone there was vegan, and it was very funny. And anyway, so I did that. And I also like lived in a hostel in Byron Bay in Australia for a month. And I was like on a $20 budget a day. And I remember everybody have like, you usually party quite a bit, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of drinking and whatnot when you're like in hostel life. And I just remember like our like bottle of wine that we would get every night. And I was like, oh, I can't afford a cup. So it's like, you just drink from the bottle, you know, like that was, I had such an interesting mentality. I just really lived by like the seat of my pants, which is so funny because I grew up like so sheltered and like so structured and comforted. And I just really did my own thing. And this is where it all started to change. I like when I looking back. So I was in Australia, you get a year visa. For those of you that are listening that have traveled or want to go, whatever, you get 1 year like traveling visa. And at the time, my partner, who again had a lot of influence over me, just being older, more experienced, things like that, he got a job in California. So he's like 8 months into our visa. The school year starts in September, right? So
Yeah.
he's like, I need to leave Australia to go to this job in California. And I kind of turned to him and I was like, I think I'm going to hang out here till my visa's done. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't know anyone. Like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to travel the East Coast on my own. And he's like, by yourself? And I'm like, yep. And he's like, okay. So he left to California. And I think that's where things turned. Like, I didn't even give it much thought. Like, I was just, and I think he was so shocked that I did that. And then I would think my family back home was so shocked. They're like, so you're just going to hang back in Australia, the farthest place from us, solo, when you have this opportunity to come to California? I'm like, yeah.
Yes. Yes, that is exactly what I'm doing. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So this like is all very much added to my experience of the ebbs and flows. You know, when you're traveling on your own, I don't know if you've done it, but like the highs are high and the lows are very low. Yeah. Your brain can play a lot of tricks on you.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to feel comfortable and confident with yourself and not question things. And it's hard, even like hostel life. Nobody ever talks about this, like, but when you're entering new hostels, it's kind of like entering school again because there's already cliques formed.
Yes. No, and you have to figure out like you're learning the dynamic, you're learning the culture of that hostel. Like you don't know that everybody goes down to the shore, you know, at 7 each night to do whatever. Like you don't know these things.
And then you're left in the room by yourself. Yes. And you're like, why do I have no friends?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And no, for sure. Do you think, because this is something that as I used to be such an envious person looking at the people studying abroad and going abroad and traveling and backpacking and living this lifestyle. And when people would tell these stories, I would like be like, oh my gosh, like they're so brave. Like, how could they do that? How could they live like just from day to day and not worry about the future? And it's like, okay, well, I did it. I stole the trip for myself, but I went with a group. So it was like a planned trip, and that was the first time I've traveled like abroad by myself. It was literally so awesome, and is why I encourage people to do it. Yes, for perspective, but when you're there, when you're away from home, when you're off, like, and you can say that you're actively traveling, like the mentality is just different. It is much, much, much easier to make decisions on a whim, to live life day to day. Like the mindset that you're in at home, it flips on your head. Obviously, like if you go on vacation, think about it, like you're making decisions in a completely different way than you do at home. You're out of your comfort zone. You're making, like, that's the appeal. So I do want to highlight to like anybody listening, like that's just kind of how you live. And if you put yourself in those situations, you will find almost a different part of yourself. You will be very surprised at the decisions that you'll make, at the mentalities that you'll have. So I do want to highlight that, because I know that younger me would have listened and been like, okay, I could never be that person. I could never live so like in the moment. I would be so worried about what's going to happen next. Like just get a random job. Like I could never, I'd be so worried. I'm like, you won't though. Like when you're there, you have no choice. You really do just kind of live day to day.
It's so funny, eh? It's so true. I feel like that one line that you said, Sarah, like you are so brave, is what I heard most from people back home.
Mm-hmm.
And to date that, like, which is very funny, which I don't ever talk about often, because not that I don't feel like it's relevant, but when I was younger, when I was just like kind of hitting puberty, like grade 7, 8, I started to experience anxiety for the first time. But this is, again, before anxiety was like a known thing. Like I didn't know what it was, and I was explaining it to my parents. And looking back, it was very much attachment anxiety to like my parents, because I started to get, like, I was having sleepovers since the age of like grade 2, grade 3. And then all of a sudden I didn't want to sleep away from home. Like I just went through like a really funny phase. And I went through like another weird little OCD phase with like germs when I was also at that age. I think it just all was very much feeling like some things were changing in my life, like going into high school and stuff. And I wanted to control different things. But to know that, and then X amount of years later, I go like traveling on my own and live out of a backpack. And it's really interesting. I wasn't like this brave person that was so confident and so secure and had all this money. Like I also didn't come from money. Like, again, I paid my way through university. I was just really resilient and extremely resourceful.
Yeah. Well, let's fast forward a little bit. So what happened from there to get you to what you do now? And if you could describe what you do now a little bit.
Yes. Okay. So upon coming home, obviously I was in like this weird vortex of what am I doing? I ended this relationship. I'm in so much debt. I'm back living at my parents again. To date me, I was like 25, 26. And I knew I needed to make some money. So I got a job immediately.
Are you saying to date you?
To date you, like, so people know that my age.
Oh my gosh. Oh, this entire time, I thought you were saying like what you were doing was to date yourself, like
No.
to like have a self-discovery moment. So then I was like, wait, she was in a relationship. Oh, and that you literally just said it in the context. I was like, she said that a lot of times, and the way she just said it makes me think she's trying to reference something. So I'm like, I need to ask, because I've been misunderstanding this entire time. That's hysterical. Okay, love that. Okay, 25, 26.
Honestly, at that time though, I was kind of like dating myself, so it's not like far off. But no, I meant to give the listeners like context to where
totally
I was in my
timeline.
Yeah.
I like that.
So essentially I started working. I also got a second job at a nightclub. I started to do bottle service because it was very good
Was
money.
that so fun?
No.
Okay, never mind. We hated that. Who the fuck?
The money was fun, man. The money was fun, but like I wasn't.
That's a hard job.
It is a hard job. And it's like, you kind of have to objectify yourself to a degree. However, it was a very clean club that I worked at. Like you couldn't drink or anything like that on the job. So it made it a little bit more structured. But like it also was good because I was saving money, because then I wouldn't be going out on Friday, Saturday night. So yeah. And I was in the zone of like myself. Like my friends were so excited that I was single, because they're like, Bree's never been single. And I'm like, I can't even get my mind wrapped around like dating anyone. And I felt so guilty how I ended things like up and out of nowhere. So whatever. Anyways, from that working at the bar, I saved up $5,000 cash to invest in a yoga teaching certification. I went on this yoga teaching certification. It was a 2-week like in super intensive, like almost cult like on this like ashram you did not leave. And everything was extremely structured, from every meal, work, like every practice, all the emotional work, all the workshops. It was absolutely nuts. Like you had no alone time, like sharing showers, sharing like where your sleeping quarters. Like it doesn't sound really intense, but honestly, when you're there and you get no private space, like it's really interesting, and was extremely testing. Just to give some type of reference, there were, I believe, 4 or 5 people within the first 5 days that left, like couldn't handle it. Yeah. Like
Wow.
it was intense. It was like absolutely insane. Like constant emotional breakdowns. Like not necessarily from me. It took me a while to actually open up, but just overall, there was about 30 of us. Anyways, I did that. I moved to Toronto. I started working a ton, and I just kind of knew that I wanted something more. So I started my first corporate job around like 27. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
What the fuck is this?
Literally, what the fuck is this? Like, I was just like, this is what people, while I've been like screwing off being a degenerate, this is what people have been doing now at this point, like almost the last 5 years, like since they've gotten out of school. Now, also, it's very much dependent on where you're working, what you want to do, what makes you feel fulfilled. This is very much a projection of like how I felt in that place. Like I felt I was capped for potential. I wasn't necessarily appreciated. I didn't feel fulfilled, all of these different things.
Yeah.
And not to say again that a 9-to-5 corporate job can't give you that. A lot of jobs can. It depends on what really you want and what you desire. So with all of the experiences that I had, I was just like, how have I lived off $20 a day and been happier than what I am now when I'm making X amount salary? Like, how does that pan out? And ultimately, I just kind of started to very slowly make different changes. Fast forward a couple of years, I, at that point, had been teaching yoga. So that very much like kind of threw me in this self-development place of like leading and holding space for other people and creating a community. And then I became certified as a life coach in NLP, EFT, and hypnosis. That was like a few months of training, which was absolutely transformational. And then I worked with a mentor. And then come fall of 2021, I kicked off like my coaching program. And I've never really felt like I've been so aligned with what I'm doing in my life. It's been really hard. It's been challenging. It's like has its ups and downs because it requires a lot from you, like being an advocate for yourself, being an entrepreneur, putting yourself out there, figuring out what works for you and what doesn't. It's one thing when you're starting anything new, whether it's like your own business, a podcast, or really anything new, looking to others for inspiration. And I think that is important at the beginning, and kind of not necessarily copying anything, but being like, oh, this worked for them. Let's see if this works for me. I think that is absolutely fine and very common. However, just because it worked for somebody else and made them successful doesn't mean it works for you. So it's been also a big learning curve for me. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing that just like fills me up, makes me feel so good, is like helping and supporting other women and what I'm doing really resonating with them and actually making a difference and making an impact. And it's really like, there's no ROI on it. You know, it's just like, I can't even put it into words. And it's 100% what I've always meant to be doing. Like, I just know that for a fact in my heart. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. It's 2023.
That is awesome. And what a like great kind of lead up to what you're doing now as well, because all of that adds value to that value that you are able to then add and give to your clients and the people that you're working with. When you're working with your clients, is there like a common problem or a like something you find that the women you're working with run into like all the time?
That's a good question. There's definitely some things that are noticeably repetitive that seem to be an ongoing struggle with people. One thing is letting go of the past. That is like a really massive thing. Understanding that like we aren't our experiences, and understanding how to kind of forgive other people and yourself to let yourself move forward. Another thing is comparing yourself. That's that's a big one, particularly in how today's age is like with the ability to compare yourself ongoing online. I think people at different phases of their life are they're just consuming what they should be doing, what they should look like, how they should be acting, where they should be at that time in their life, right? And everybody knows what that feels like. Like that's how I felt when I came back from traveling. Like I just felt so lost. I was like, did I just screw up my life coming back at 26? And everybody else seems to be so much further than I am. And it's like now coming full circle. I'm like, I'm 31. I bought a house this year. That's very exciting.
That is very exciting.
Yeah, but I'm like, I'm not married. I don't have a kid. I'm in a committed relationship and things like that. And now it's like some of my friends have kids and stuff, and it's so beautiful. And it's so amazing to really feel confident in yourself in supporting people with where they are at and understanding there are pros and cons to everything. And there's really no right way to do anything. It's ultimately up to you. Your only job is not to understand like other people, but to understand yourself, But we're so busy looking outwards, trying to control, trying to understand, trying to change, trying to fix. And what's lacking in like society and how people build relationships and their communication styles and stuff is how they aren't really connected to themselves. They kind of turn a blind eye. Like they don't really want to go to the deepest parts of them. They don't want to assess. They don't want to look at their triggers. They don't want to look at how they're actually holding on to the past and or take actually intentional action to change things.
Yeah. And I think if anybody's listening, as far as like, I think the life coach industry can be super misleading, which is very unfortunate because there is so many people who are very genuine and extremely helpful. It almost makes me think of like my freelance days where like freelance coaches and the whole freelance industry is like whack. Like there's so much clutter in there. And I think what's really valuable about life coaches and like some say success mentors, like those type of people, it's that they're really able to hold a mirror up sort of. And I always am like, usually and I'd love for you to rebuttal this if you feel differently. I never feel that they're saying anything that we don't already know. And like, when you're working with your clients, I think it's all things that we know, but it all has to do with perspective. It's always like, I've never heard it that way before. And it is super helpful to have somebody on the outside with it's not just an outside perspective, but literally that does not have a tie into your life. They don't have like some sort of anchor there, completely looking from the outside and is really able to see things as they are, emotions detached. And I think that's what gets really hard. And that's where we get really confused and overwhelmed, is because we are approaching everything with these emotional glasses, when things I just on a different podcast, we just said something like, don't approach things in an emotional way that don't have emotion tied to them. And I think that's the value of having someone like a life coach to be with you, talk with you, yes, teach you the methods that can help you with whatever you're struggling with, but also just being somebody to say like, here is how this actually looks. Let me take off the glasses and so that you can actually tackle this instead of feeling such overwhelm.
Yeah, 100%. Like you worded it so well. It's really very much holding a mirror up to yourself and really having someone hold space and ask the right questions.
Yeah.
I think that really makes a good coach.
The questions. Yes.
Yeah. So throughout like my one-on-one program, I literally have my clients do a check-in every week, being like answering 3 different questions. Like, do you feel fully supported? Is there anything else you need? And it's like out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I've always just received like clients coming back, rating it a 5, like I feel so heard, so understood, because that's also like me growing as a coach, right? Like understanding what people need, what resonates with people. And the biggest thing that I focus on is honestly holding space for whatever they are bringing to the table. And I always say, come exactly how you are. You've had a shitty day, a great day, you're flustered, whatever it is, come exactly how you are, and we will work through things together. And holding space is really interesting. It's also not like taking the bait that people will be giving you, right?
Oh,
Like giving you the drama, like giving you the story. It's funny. So
yeah.
I've had like clients come back like the next week after we've met or something, and they'll just be like, damn, Bray, I got off that call and was like, she would not be down to gossip with me. Like I was giving it to her, like, no, he did this. And I'm just like, okay. So yeah. It's just like, it's really interesting what holding space does for people.
Yeah.
We constantly want to fill space with words and explanation and over explaining ourselves. But the more you're explaining yourself, the less you're actually expressing yourself and being connected to you, right? So I think holding space and really asking the right questions. And that's where I believe the certifications and kind of everything I've
Yeah.
learned very
That's where it
much
gets
makes
really
me
important.
equipped to do that. So like any industry, I understand that it really fluctuates, but I'm like extremely result driven with people. Like I really want to get them from A to B,
Yeah.
right? So I think understanding the context and the appropriate like techniques and really understanding what will support them in that moment is very essential.
Yeah, no, that's all really good points, and I'm glad you said something about the questions. My best mentors, my best epiphanies have always come from somebody that I'm looking up to asking me just the right question, and I think I was convinced, and I still am. Like any problem can be resolved if you're just asking yourself the questions. If it means being in the mirror, if it means writing it down, but just ask yourself questions. Like instead of saying what's wrong in your head, say what's wrong out loud and then answer yourself out loud. And it's been
Yeah.
so helpful if I've had somebody who can look at my situation and, ask the right questions, and it just makes you think, and it's extremely empowering. And I want to put you on the spot just a little bit because this is kind of inspired this for me. I want to know if you have any like really good questions that people could potentially like walk away from this episode with, to be asking themselves in regards to their mindset, in regards to like the way that they're feeling right now, or if they feel stuck. Feel free to take some time because I did not prep you for this at all. So I apologize for that, but I think that could be really, really valuable.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, hold on. So initially, I would say the first question is firstly asking how someone's feeling. Straight up, like how you were feeling. Not the good, not I'm fine. Like, life is like, it's okay. Like literally, how are you feeling? Like, Sarah, if you were to answer that right now, exactly to put you on the spot, what
Yeah,
would you
yeah,
say? Like, what are you truly feeling outside of this podcast interaction? Because obviously
yeah,
you're very bubbly and lively and whatnot, but like, how are you feeling?
yeah. Um, Gosh, how am I feeling? I have been feeling a lot of gratitude lately. I feel really, really good about my job and my career, but then paired with that has also come with a lot of guilt. And I am notorious, at least for myself, at we could always be doing more. So I've also I don't know what that, I guess guilt, some sort of feeling in that way, but yeah, I've also feel well, that's making me feel a little bit tired because I'm like, I can always be doing more, and but it's always asking the question, like, what more can I do? And am I pushing hard enough? And yada, yada, yada. So from an honest perspective, like say that's where I'm at. I'm extremely grateful, but I feel very guilty and tired.
That's fair. And how do you wish that you felt? Like, what would be your most ideal, stable, consistent state of feeling?
Yeah, I think gratitude is always a good place to be. So really feeling
Definitely.
good there. I
Mhm.
think that I would like to feel more energized by the opportunities of the things that I could be doing rather than stifled by them or pressured by them. And I'd like to be also proud of the actions that I am taking at that time. So if there is something I feel like I should be doing and I actually do it, not, I want to feel good in that action and feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm really in a really good place, not necessarily being like, great, that's done. Next thing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And what is it that you think what do you think can actually bridge the gap between the two? Like, what do you think is actually keeping you in place A versus place B of where you actually want to be feeling?
Um, Probably more like, I think there's a couple answers. I think a lot of it has to do with mindset because like even if I were to make a plan for myself, like, oh, these are the things I should be like writing things down, like where I want to be, what I want to do, like all that, I end up feeling a lot more pressure from that which is not helpful. That's not productive. And it's like, oh, you have all these things you want to do, but as soon as you write them down, you feel pressure because you have to do them. So you just get overwhelmed and frozen from action. And I'm like, yes, precisely. And I think that all is 100% a mindset thing, which like goes down to, I would say, probably like fear of failure, because it's that I'm afraid of that list, because what if I don't do it in the time that I've allotted or something? I don't know. Like, why do I feel so much pressure by that? Because I'm afraid that it's not going to pan out or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And I mean, that can go, if we can speak to my therapist's name, who is also Sarah, if we really want to dive into that. Anyway, I think for a very, very short answer, mindset and how I look at goals and where I want to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry. So a little bit veering off just from the question portion, just to give you a little bit of an explanation. So there is definitely a list of like really beautiful questions that I can definitely share with you, that you can even share as like a post for your listeners or anything.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank
to
you.
attach. Yeah, not a problem. You can attach it to this episode. But in regards to you talking about like your deep rooted beliefs and whatnot, that is why the work that I do is so important, because ultimately our conscious mind is about like 10% of our brain, where our subconscious is about 90%. And that is where ultimately our core systems and beliefs is all stored. However, we aren't necessarily aware of that. So this is why like triggers, and when you go to do something, you get excited, then all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, I'm either in fear of failure. Sometimes you can be fear of success. A lot of people don't realize this, but you can be very fear of success. Like, oh, what if I do exceed? And then people are judging me, all eyes are on me, things like this. And so when the whole work behind like changing your mindset, yes, you can do things like eat healthy, go to yoga, stop consuming Netflix, like pretty surface things that do make a difference if you do consistently make those efforts. However, if you really want to change your mindset, you need to do the work of rewiring your subconscious mind. And there are tools to be able to do so. This kind of where it falls under NLP, which stands for neuro-linguistic programming. So there's different tools and modalities that specifically focus on rewiring your subconscious mind. And this is because of the science behind our minds being like neuroplasticity, right? Like having the ability to be shaped and shifted. And the thing is, our subconscious mind will never make us a liar. So it will only believe what you tell it. So for example, self-trust is a very important component to building confidence. However, if you keep breaking your self-trust, right? Say, I'm going to go to the gym starting in the new year 5 days a week. And then it comes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You don't go to the gym. Your subconscious mind is like, yeah, you said that out loud, or you wrote it down in your goals, or you posted on social media, but like clearly you don't want to because you don't get up. And the other funny thing about the subconscious mind is it takes the path of least resistance. So not only does it not make you a liar, so it believes based on your actions and your thoughts, but it's also going to do whatever is easiest. And it's not because it's lazy, but it's because it wants to keep you safe. So everything it does is it puts up walls and like not challenges, but it ultimately puts up walls, and then maybe will instill a bit of fear and whatnot because it wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you in a box. And that is because back in the day, like centuries ago, we were very survival based, like you were being hunted constantly and but now we live in actually a very safe world. So these fears aren't necessarily serving us, and they actually keep you very limited from taking a step forward and taking any action in your life. So that is why it's so important to do subconscious work. In like one of my main techniques that I like to do with people is EFT. It's emotional freedom technique. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay.
A cool name.
Cool name. So it's ultimately tapping. So it's like, you kind of like acupuncture, but it's more like acupressure because you're like
definitely heard of tapping.
Yeah. So it's like tapping on different meridian points on your body. And what that ultimately does is supports you in releasing like energy within those like stagnant areas. So it's really helpful when you are feeling like very intense emotions, or working through letting go of the past, or even working through like instilling more positive affirmations. Like usually you'll do a few rounds, and on the last like round, you'll do like a positive affirmation to instill that, to really start to overcome like limiting beliefs that you have just based on your past belief system that's been programmed through experiences, through your childhood, like things you are very unaware about,
Yeah. No, oh my gosh, no, that makes so much sense. And I think about that, and a lot of people, see these type of techniques that can feel very like just odd to some people, and they're like, what do you mean, like releasing this from where? And I'm like, okay, well, think about it this way. Like everybody knows what it's like to hold stress in your shoulders. Like everybody knows what it's like when you go to a massage, you have like stressed out muscles. There's literal physical knots in your body, in your muscular system, that are representations of that stress. So it's the same there. It's just in a different system in your body. And so, no, that's so fascinating. We're gonna have to, I'm so sorry, we're gonna have to do a part 2. You have no choice. You have no choice. Like there is so much information here, and I think there's so much more to talk about, and I want to, we have to. There's so much information, we're not gonna be able to fit it.
We can do a part 2, man.
Awesome. Okay. And you've got something exciting happening. You got something exciting happening soon. So I feel like this is just the teaser of then our next one, which will be like a huge bulk episode. I want to hear more about EFT. I want to hear more about, what was the N one?
NLP. So
NLP.
NLP, it's like EFT is under the umbrella of NLP.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I want to hear more about that. This has been so great. But yes, tell us what's happening.
Yeah. So ultimately, I have a signature self-paced course coming out. So ultimately, this is the program that I take my one-on-one clients through. However, I wanted to make it more accessible to get in the hands of more people. And obviously, I only have so much time. And also, I'm able to offer it at a much lower price point. So my signature program, CMA, Confident Mindset Accelerator, it is launching on January 30th. Very exciting. It's available for everyone, honestly, to purchase. It's like a 5-module course, self-paced course with all videos, and there's homework with every module, because something that I want to really drive home. I've done a lot of courses, and I've taken things that I love. I've taken feedback from my clients, and that's kind of the best part of putting out this course, is because I've had clients go through it. So I know the results that come from it. So I'm very excited, and I know it will really get people what they want. But implementation is a huge thing, because I've done a bunch of courses and it's extremely informative. But, like once you finish it, it's like, okay, you can only remember so much. We only have so much storage capacity. So implementation on top of the education is a massive component of CMA, and that will go hand in hand with the homework that you'll be doing step by step. And I obviously guide you through this with videos. So you can anticipate that to come out on January 30th. Very exciting.
That is so freaking great. What a good way to like start the new year. I think this is such a good like start of 2023. Oh my gosh. Thank you for coming on. And thank you for letting me bully you into a second episode. So
Thanks, Sarah.
Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, then definitely stay tuned because we will be having another one come out. I don't know when, but we'll talk about that after we log out of here. But if you enjoyed this episode, please share with a friend and definitely go check out Breanne and all of her socials. Where can they find you, by the way, if they're wanting to hear more from you?
Yeah, my Instagram is at Breanne Burke, BreanneBurke. Pretty straightforward, first and last name.
Nice. And you
Yeah.
also have a podcast.
Oh, I do. Sorry, yes. The Gold Digger Guide.
Yeah, definitely shout that out.
Not gold, Goal, Digger Guide.
Goal Digger Guide. Yes, definitely go check out her podcast. It's a good thing you have a podcast because it's very clear you have a lot to talk about. But guys, yeah, share this with a friend, post on your stories, and if you do, please tag us so that we are able to shout you out because we absolutely love it. If you are feeling really nice, please like, rate, review, subscribe, all the things. We are on YouTube, so if you prefer to watch the episode, definitely go check our YouTube out and subscribe. That would mean the world to us. And yeah, thank you so much, Breanne, for being here. Thank you guys for listening, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.